Welcome back to Pokemon Tour. Today we're going through the Hoenn region, in a playthrough that I thought would be easier. However, the idea is that in Omega Ruby, a bunch of Pokemon from the game can actually evolve into later gen Pokemon than Gen 3. That's the concept of this challenge. This is Pokemon Omega Ruby, but I can only use Pokemon from Gen 4 or later. Here are the rules. A Pokemon is usable if it's from Gen 4 or later. However, the challenge has to still be hard because this is Pokemon Tour, so I've added a bunch of other rules that are also really important to getting through this challenge. Here we go. I started by catching a male Ralts to evolve into Gallade once I get to that point, which is in the Victory Road. Hooray! One problem I ran into was that Ralts only knew Confuse Ray, which means I had to find a way to get it to a high enough level to get Confusion. So what I did was I just went up against some Seedots who only knew Bide and just had them keep hitting themselves over and over again until they took themselves out, or until I took myself out. It was a bit of a struggle, but no pun intended. But I eventually was able to get Ralts Confusion and keep going with the playthrough, until I met a Team Magma Grunt who had a Poochyena that Confusion would actually do 0 damage to and lost the battle. So, what now? My level cap just about let me reach level 11 for Ralts to learn Disarming Voice, so I was able to learn that, and the next time, Ralts defeated the Team Magma Grunt easily. Time for the first gym battle. I only had Ralts and we used Confusion, getting Geodude confused and made it hit itself. We took it out with Confusion next turn. Nosepass came up next and we used Confusion, but it didn't do much. Meanwhile, Nosepass's Rock Tomb did about half. Nosepass ended up hitting itself twice and we managed to get off 3 Confusions. But then Roxanne healed Nosepass. We kept trying, but Nosepass snapped out of Confusion and took out Ralts, defeating us. My next attempt, I was able to get Roxanne to waste her heal on Geodude before taking it out, and then Nosepass very quickly managed to KO us. The next attempt, I went to try something new, but then Geodude just used Rock Tomb twice and KO'd us. Now, I don't know if you noticed the pattern, but this happened a lot, and I essentially needed to get this chain of events to happen, otherwise I'd lose the battle and I'd have to start over. I'd have to get a Confuse Ray, Geodude wouldn't attack or use Tackle, Ralts Confusions, then Geodude has to be the one to get healed. Roxanne has to waste a heal on Geodude. I'd have to defeat Geodude, Confuse Ray Nosepass, and then hope that Nosepass hit itself enough times in Confusion for us to take it out. Attempt after attempt after attempt. I was in this battle 28 times before this happened. I managed to get Roxanne to waste her heal on Geodude and managed to easily take it out. Next was Nosepass and we used Confuse Ray. This time we got really lucky with a critical hit on a Confusion and 2 Confusion hits. We got hit by Rock Tomb once and lived on 3 HP before landing the final Confusion, defeating Nosepass, winning us the battle after 29 attempts. I felt good about that victory, but I was also terrified for the future. However, the next gym was really easy, as demonstrated by Ryan in my last Omega Ruby challenge. If you just use Confusion on Ralts in this gym, you can pretty easily win. Things felt like they were going well for us again, until something weird started happening. People started hating on Ralts. As a matter of fact, it was so bad I was getting beat up in the parking lot by a bunch of trainers, the worst of which being the biggest bully, Brendan. He had a team that countered just about every strategy I had. Specifically, his insanely strong for this point of the game, Wailmer. I lost again and again and again with no avail. I did this battle so many times. And then I finally caved. I realized the problem. Ralts simply is too weak. Its base stat total is actually lower than Magikarp's, and I was essentially having to beat it with a strict level cap. I had no choice but to evolve Ralts into Curlia in order to continue with this dreadful challenge. Also, just to show how desperate I was getting, here's my notes. These are actual things I said in my notes for this challenge. After the evolution, the battle was still pretty hard, with me having lost to Brendan. The next attempt was a gem, though. We were able to easily beat Whalmore with Magical Leaf, and then there was Shroomish, who we KO'd with 3 hits in Confusion. However, we were paralyzed by the Stun Spore. Combuskin was up next and almost KO'd us with Peck, but we managed to stick it out and defeat Combustion with 2 Confusions. We barely beat Brendan while cheating. With the Brendan fight completed, I was finally able to check out Route 117 and add Roselia to the team. While walking through Mauville, Wally tried to cheer me up, but I just couldn't feel better. The next gym leader was Watson, and I knew he'd be a really tough one to beat. With Roselia added to the team, it makes things a little easier, but Watson has that Magneton and a Magnemite, 2 steel types. I didn't feel very hopeful going in. However, the battle felt more luck-based than anything, because Watson kept setting up status conditions, but also gave us giant openings so that we could easily use up his power and take him down. I went through the matches one at a time and felt things were getting better each time until attempt 7. I led with Curlia and got paralyzed. He then Volt Switched into Magneton, and Magneton used Volt Switch again, defeating Curlia and sending in Voltorb. So I sent out Roselia. Voltorb started using Charge, and we started using Growth. After a few growths, Watson Volt Switched out and sent out Magneton. Roselia was still in, and we managed to defeat Magneton with a crit Magical Leaf. Magnemite came out, and we were able to OHKO it with Magical Leaf. And finally was Voltorb, who we also defeated with Magical Leaf, winning us the battle. At this point, I decided to teach Roselia Venoshock instead of Mega Drain, because it was just a little more powerful, and I didn't feel like it was a big deal with Leech Seed. Now, we needed to use Rock Smash to get past these rocks on the next route, so I needed an HM Pokemon to get past them. However, there's a bit of a problem. At Pearl Arbor Town, I can actually get myself some honey so that I can get myself a Magnemite of my own. But in order to do that, I'd have to go back through those rocks. I'd need to find a solution for that later, though. Brendan had a sudden change of heart and now wanted to team up with me, which I was glad about because this Team Magma fight actually swept me. Meanwhile, Brendan was able to take them down. He also decided that now that I had the honey, he'd use his Rock Smash Pokemon to get me back to Mauville City, meaning I could get myself a Magnemite using the honey. With the Magnemite by my side, I was now able to keep going through the challenge and had to hope the next battle wouldn't be too hard. Oh. Yeah, that Camerupt is a big problem. Amnesia Lava Plume, it's super effective against my entire team, essentially. We lost several times, but every time I felt a little bit better. Until attempt 5, when I was finally onto something. I had Curlia used Draining Kiss and take out Mightyena. Next was Camerupt, and we hit it with Confusion, but it hit us back with Earth Power, defeating Curlia. I sent out Roselia next, who used Giga Drain and got a crit. Finally was Golbat. We used Leech Seed just before Golbat defeated Roselia with Air Cutter. It was up to Magnemite. We used Volt Switch, doing big damage to Golbat, but not defeating it. Golbat used Confuse Ray before we used Volt Switch, which defeated Golbat, winning us this battle. However, we weren't out of the hot water. Literally, the next gym leader is a Fire-type gym leader, who, yeah, my team is kinda weak to fire if you haven't noticed. Oh boy. On attempt 1, we did pretty hot actually, as in we were set on fire. However, on the second attempt, we led with Roselia against Slugma. We tried to set up, but we were hit by Overheat, which defeated us. I sent out Curlian next, and because of Overheat, Slugma ended up handing us 3 free Calm Minds, thus allowing us to hit Slugma so hard it flew to the moon. Flannery sent out Torkoal next, and we hit it with Confusion as Torkoal used Overheat. However, Calm Mind not only boosts your special attack, but special defense, meaning it didn't do a lot of damage. So we used Confusion again, defeating Torkoal, and Nummel wasn't much of a challenge. We managed to beat Flannery. Okay, that was a little easier than I expected. Next was Norman, who's pretty tough. Meanwhile, our team isn't really getting much better. We have 3 team members, but Magneton has a pretty low base stat total. Roselia has decent stats, but its spread is awful. And finally is Curlia, who has a decent enough base stat total, but it's still not great. I had quite a few attempts in this gym before finally hitting gold. I led with Curlia against Slacking, and we used Confusion. This started chipping away at Slacking before it defeated us. Next I sent out Roselia, and we used Toxic Spikes on a Truant turn before getting O-code by the Slacking. I sent out Magnemite next, and we used Thunder Wave, paralyzing it. We used Volt Switch next, and Slacking was fully paralyzed. That allowed us to defeat Slacking. Next was Vigoroth, who hit us, but we were able to defeat it, which caused Norman to switch into his second Slacking. We hit it with Volt Switch, and on the Truant turn we used Metal Sound, lowering Slacking's special defense. Next turn Slacking hit Magnemite hard, but we lived. We used Volt Switch again, and that did a ton of damage. However, it was still not enough. Except for one thing. Poison. Thanks to the Toxic Spikes, Slacking was poisoned now. And thanks to that, Slacking managed to be defeated. We got 5 badges. And Magnemite evolved in a Magneton. Now, to those of you who've seen other videos I've done in Omega Ruby, you might know that if you go to New Mauville, you can actually go right here and evolve Magnemites into Magnetons, along with other electric field evolving Pokemon. However, this doesn't apply to this challenge since New Mauville is across some frickin' water, meaning I can't actually go there due to our HM rules of, being forced to only use them if they are necessary. And since New Mauville isn't necessary, I can't just use an HM Pokemon to get over there. I have to wait. Also, Mega Evolution is available now, which I can't use. Yeah, due to the item rules, I can't pick up held items and give them to Pokemon, or use healing items outside of battle. So, that means that since you have to hold a Mega Stone in order to Mega Evolve a Pokemon, I can't Mega Evolve a Pokemon, because they can't hold their Mega Stone. Brendan decided to turn back to the dark side, but you know what? It was a mistake for him. Roselia came out and used Toxic Spikes twice. Then we used Mega Drain, defeating Wailmer. Combuskin came out and KO'd Roselia, but Magneton came out and KO'd Combuskin with Tri-Attack. Then came Shroomish, and we KO'd it with Mirror Shot. This was beautiful. I'd gotten revenge. Now, the next gym is a flying type gym, and we do have Magneton, but we're actually in a bit of a pickle. My only TM for an electric type move is Volt Switch, and Magneton doesn't have any electric type attacks. Meaning, we actually don't have any super effective damage for this gym. This is especially problematic since Winona's main ace Pokemon, Altaria, is able to do super effective damage with Earthquake. So, yeah. Our first 2 attempts didn't go very well, but then it hit me. It dawned on me that Volt Switch was actually still kind of effective. Think about it. I only have to worry about this move hitting and then a switch. But that's only if I have to switch. And then I could just switch right back. So it's not actually that big of a deal. The next attempt went very well, but I still lost. However, I went in a 4th time, and here's what happened. Magneton came in against Swallow, and we used Volt Switch, OHKOing it. Next was Pelipper, and we switched to Roselia, switching back to Magneton, and used Volt Switch to defeat it. Next was Skarmory. Roselia came in, and we switched back to Magneton, and used Volt Switch and KO'd it. Finally, it was Altaria, and we decided to use Leech Seed to make sure we got a KO. Altaria quickly KO'd Roselia, but then I sent out Kirlia, who used Calm Mind and then Draining Kiss, defeating Altaria, winning us the 6th badge. I saw Brendan again in Lily Cove, but he decided to let me pass this time, and then something interesting happened. I went to Mount Pyre and found Duskull, which evolves into Dusknoir, which is a Gen 4 Pokemon. But it's still not usable. So you have to evolve Duskull into Dusknoir by trading a Dusclops with a Reaper Cloth. But in order to get the Reaper Cloth, you have to get it in the post-game. And because that's the case, it's not usable because I have to evolve it. Actually, a similar thing happened with Snorunt. I just wasn't allowed to use it because not only could I not get to Shoal Cave, I also just simply couldn't actually evolve it. But even without that, I still was doing great. Tate and Liza, easy. Maxie, defeated. All that was left before this challenge really grew easy was Primal Groudon, who somehow was taken out by Magneton. I don't really know that one. But now, this challenge has gotten even easier than it just was, because of a simple little thing. After defeating Primal Groudon or Primal Kyogre, depending on the game, you unlock special new Pokemon throughout Hoenn. 118 new species are available. Well, new Pokemon are available, I don't know about species. But 118 new Pokemon are available, and 69 of them are usable in the challenge. This took me so long. I should have been doing homework when I found that statistic. Please subscribe. There was just one problem. I'm stuck in Sootopolis. This city's in the middle of the ocean. What am I supposed to do? But then I remembered something else. For beating Primal Groudon or Primal Kyogre, you get an Eon Flute, which is an item that allows you to fly around on Latios or Latias throughout the Hoenn region skies, which is kind of overpowered and really good for this challenge, because now I can fly around to anywhere without a flying HM Pokemon. I was set. Now, I first went and got myself some HM Pokemon so that I could get myself some better Pokemon. First of all, I caught myself a Gible in the desert, and I caught myself an Eevee back on Route 116. I also caught a Spiritomb who I wasn't allowed to use yet, but I caught it anyway since it's just a fun Pokemon. Now, I've added some new Pokemon to the team and evolved them, Eevee into Sylveon and Gible into Gabite, and later on into Garchomp, but we'll have to get to that later. Meanwhile, Kirlia, Roselia, and Magneton couldn't evolve yet. Kirlia because I still didn't have access to Dawnstone, and Roselia and Magneton refused to evolve until Kirlia finally evolved itself, since it had kind of gone through everything for me. I appreciated that, and decided to respect their wishes. So I needed to defeat the 8th gym next. The 8th gym was actually pretty easy. Sylveon simply powered up a bunch against Luvdisc and then took it out with a Moonblast, along with Wallace's entire team. Sylveon very quickly became a great Pokemon for me. Next was Wally, who I was actually able to defeat using Kirlia, despite him having Mega Gallade. And Wally gave us the Dawnstone. Finally. Through various methods, we could evolve the entire team. Kirlia into Gallade, Roselia into Roserade, and Magneton into Magnezone. And real quick, I also evolved Gabite into Garchomp because, yeah, Garchomp's a good Pokemon. Also real quick, I learned something interesting. Apparently, I could have gotten that shiny stone a lot earlier in the challenge. Oops, didn't know Roselia could learn Cut, my bad. But anyway, it was finally time for us to take on the League. With a small catch. Against the League, I felt that this team is pretty overpowered. We got a pseudo-legendary and 5 fully evolved Pokemon beside it. It's a pretty easy challenge to go in there and just sweep all of them. But what if I wasn't allowed to heal before each battle? Since there are no healing items allowed at all, I can't heal in between battles, meaning I need a clean run through the Elite Four, or else I've lost. Something reassuring was that each member of the Elite Four I could actually take out on my first attempt. And Steven was the only one that was actually doing any damage to me and killing my Pokemon. So yeah, we're just gonna cut straight to the Steven battle for each attempt. On attempt 1, I actually had a team that looked like this. Everyone was down except Garchomp, and I obviously lost. Attempt 2, I had Roserade and Gallade. I did a little worse, or better, I don't really know. It still didn't go very well. On attempt 3, I had Gallade, Magnezone, and Garchomp, which went a lot better, but we still lost. However, attempt 4, I knew was gonna be the run. Against Sydney, Sylveon managed to take out his team. Against Phoebe, Roserade managed to take out her team. Using, Shadow Ball. Against Glacia, Gallade was obviously able to defeat all of her Pokemon. And against Drake, Sylveon came back again and used up pretty much all of its power points defeating his team. Meaning, we got to Steven with a full team of 6. Attempt 4, fighting Steven. I sent out Magnezone against Skarmory. Skarmory started setting up spikes and we used Thunderbolt, eventually KOing it. But now with 2 spikes up, I had some doubts. Next was Aggron, and we used Thunderbolt again as Aggron used Earthquake. We survived the hit and we defeated Aggron thanks to Sturdy. Next was Claydol, who used Earth Power as we used Tri-Attack, and it defeated us. I sent out Spiritomb next, who used Dark Pulse and did a bit of damage to Claydol. Steven healed while we powered up. We got hit by Earth Power, but that was fine. And we used Dark Pulse, defeating Claydol. Next was Armaldo. We used Shadow Ball and it used X-Scissor, KOing Spiritomb. I sent out Sylveon next and defeated it with Draining Kiss. Next was Cradily, and we used Moonblast as it confused us. But then something surprising happened. I didn't know Sylveon was beefy before it tanked a Sludge Bomb, a Poison, and hitting itself in Confusion all in one turn. We used Moonblast again and KO'd Cradily. But now was Steven's ace, Mega Metagross. It used Bullet Punch and KO'd Sylveon very quickly. Our team now looked like this. We only had 3 Pokemon left against this behemoth. And I knew exactly what to do. I sent out Garchomp, and then switched to Roserade, before taking a Giga Impact. Now, after using Giga Impact, Metagross has to recharge, so we hit it with Earthquake as hard as possible. But it only did about half. So we switched again into Gallade, and Gallade took Giga Impact this time, taking it out and allowing us to switch into Garchomp again. We used Earthquake and defeated Metagross, winning us the battle. We are the champion of the Hoenn region. Guys, this is a crazy hard challenge, but thank you all for waiting patiently as this video came out. Once again, Pokemon Tour will unfortunately be on a bit of a break until next year due to the Legends ZA DLC. But don't worry, we'll be back soon. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, remember to like, comment, subscribe, turn on notifications, share this video with everyone you know and love, and I'll see you next time. Bye!